Hello and welcome to IGN UK podcast number 278. This is definitely 278. Today I'm joined by Alex Simmons.
Oh, Jesus.
Who's very tired today. Yes. And Rory Powers.
I think mine was louder and better.
And my name is Daniel Krupa.
No noise?
I think that's enough for
There's
everyone.
There's a noise of sorts coming from
solidarity.
Just before we started, we were thinking of what the worst noise we could possibly do would be.
Basically Rory's voice.
Oh! Shots fired at the clan MVP right off the bat.
Wow, and on that harsh note, shall we segue seamlessly to something equally sad and depressing? Silent Hills, the game, the collaboration between Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima does not exist anymore.
No.
Konami are, they've already done it, but by the time of recording, they've taken down PT from the PlayStation Store.
I know this because I tried to download it in the studio PC today, thinking I was going to beat it because I thought it would have gone down on the 1st, like at the end of the month, but nope. Apparently I wasn't fast enough.
It's gone. They've taken that down. So, bit of context. Obviously, Kojima's having some problems with Konami is an understatement. Over the weekend, at a film festival, an audience member asked Del Toro what the status of the game was in light of those kind of difficulties between Kojima and Konami. He said that it was no longer happening. Again, over the weekend, Norman Rodriguez? That's someone else. Norman Reedus?
Yes.
Confirmed that.
I wish it was
I was wondering who you're.
That's actually some bloke my mum used to work with.
Is it?
Yeah, Norman Rodriguez.
He confirmed that it's not happening.
Yeah. He's not in it. He was never in it though. So he said that he's not going to be in the game. Right. So this elaborate, brilliant, intriguing teaser for this game that everyone got super hyped about is not happening.
No.
And Guillermo del Toro, not for the first time, a game that he's involved with, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Is he ever going to make a video game?
No. I would never.
So.
If I was a developer, I would never sign up with him because he was initially due to do the Insane trilogy with THQ.
Yeah.
THQ went the wrong way, although he kept the rights to Insane, but obviously that was being developed for Xbox 360 and PS3. Probably not coming out now. Last time we heard about that was in 2012, so I can't imagine that's coming out.
It's a slow burn, that one.
But it's not his fault. I mean, this is not his own doing.
No, but
so I
think
wouldn't see why.
It's
still a possibility.
There's a perception of a curse, maybe now.
Kiss of death, yes.
It's a shame because Guillermo del Toro is a very smart man, and he's a very articulate man, and he's really good when he speaks about like the history of like popular culture and how, for instance, graphic novels segued from being considered kind of lowbrow to being really revered as a meaningful literary form. And he's made the same case for video games. He says, it's going to happen. Non-linear narrative storytelling, which is what games do really well, is something that will increase in importance. And he went on Ken Levine's podcast and spoke really articulate about that. So he obviously has ideas and really believes in video games as a medium. So it's a shame that we might not be able to see what he would do with it.
I'm sure he will have another stab at it. He's obviously very, very keen on video games. I can't imagine that there will be many developers that wouldn't want to work with him. Like imagine him teaming up with I don't know, I've forgotten the name of the guy that did Resident Evil that just did the Evil
Mikami.
with him. Yeah, Mikami. Be interesting to see what that kind of thing would pull together.
And especially now that video games are becoming, a lot of them are becoming a lot more cinematic. You see the possibility in the future where more directors would be pulled in to direct video games.
Yeah, I
so
think it's a dual-edged sword. I think I was excited by the idea of him collaborating with Kojima because there have been times in the past where I think people who work in film feel like, oh, I can do a game. That's easy.
Yeah.
And when we had Alex Garland in, he made the really good point that he was really self-denying and self-effacing when it came to his involvement in Enslaved. He said, I helped out on it. And we were like, me and Chris was like, would you ever want to like direct it? He's like, what do I know about that?
Yeah.
It's like, I love games, but all my experience is in writing novels or movies. So
if you're directing like a video game, how much direct involvement do you have? Or do you direct? You can't really direct. You just direct the animation, or
I think it probably varies to a degree. I think there's a very well-defined role of what a director does on a film. I think in a game there's more flexibility because sometimes you have a partnership. You'll have a technical director who will oversee very technical things, obviously, like, animation, engineering,
like implementing the vision, as it were,
mechanics, things like that. And then you'd have a creative director. So kind of the Straley Druckmann model on Last of Us. And,
Gotcha.
the Druckmann, the creative director, is more involved in maybe art direction, story, characterization, stuff like that.
Together.
But then you got someone like Kojima, who I imagine would be across everything.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. But so, like, one of the things that we were talking about is PT, obviously. Like, how much involvement did those two actually have in that?
Yeah, and also, how much would that have had any resemblance to the Silent Hills game that will never now be?
Yeah, and I know, like, since obviously all this news came out, there have been a few articles hailing PT as kind of the greatest game that came out last year. I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting. It was certainly scary.
You've got it on your
I do,
PlayStation.
yes. Yeah.
I think hopefully sometime this week or next week, I want to put it up on the big screen and turn off all the lights.
It is really
I
good.
want to have the crap scared out of me.
It's an interesting concept.
I've heard so much about it, and just the model and the way things unfold in the game.
It's just a really smart little experience,
Yeah,
and it's
it's cleverly designed.
and it's really satisfying. And one of the reasons it can do a lot of things that it does is because it isn't a £40 big budget game with a lot riding on it.
Yeah.
Well, was
like,
it free to download?
Yeah,
Yes, free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
better.
nobody even knew it was Silent Hills when it came out at Gamescom. It's like, oh, this PT game's coming out, you can get a free trial of it now. Like, really downplaying it.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I remember talking to the person at Konami, and they thought that it would take kind of 6 weeks for somebody to get to the end, because there are so many weird ways to finish the.
I still don't understand how I did it.
I don't either.
Did you both finish it?
I didn't. And I was even following step by step from how to do it. And I was just like, I don't understand. But anyway, people did it in like 6 hours. Konami were really surprised by how quickly.
So how
people
long
got to
is
the
this
end.
demo then? Because I
It's
assumed
really
it would
short.
be about an hour.
I think there are six kind of. It's broken into 6 sections, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And the first 4 are all pretty straightforward in terms of what you have to do.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 are just kind of a little bit like.
more.
I don't know how on earth you would actually figure out how to do that stuff.
I think this Silent Hills now, there's something of like James Dean and Kurt Cobain about it, whereas because it died young and it never happened. Like, people will think it would have been like perfect.
Yeah.
Like, on paper, Kojima, Del Toro, and PT. For now, it's like it can never get worse.
Yeah.
It can never be anything but this great idea. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And they cut it short. And you know what? It probably could have been. But I'm just saying, it's like. I think people will be sad that there's not a Del Toro game, there's not getting this other Kojima game, not getting what people want as in another great Silent Hill game. But, if a lot of the team that made PT are still involved, there's still hope that we could get a really good Silent Hill game.
I'm sure that, Konami will work on a Silent Hill game, and I don't necessarily.
They said they had every intention to keep going with the series.
And I don't think that it's going to negatively impact too much on it. It just doesn't have the same draw, because you don't have Kojima signed to it. You don't have Del Toro.
Yeah,
At the same time, that could have had expectations too high.
I think the great so Del Toro he's a huge fan of horror literature. Like, people say, "Oh, you're into fantasy." It's like, well, if you went to my library, there'd be one shelf of fantasy books, but I have whole walls of horror books.
Right.
And he's hugely into like Lovecraft, and for years he's been trying to get a Lovecraft film made, but it's just too expensive. Nobody wants to fund like a $200 million horror movie, because they're just worried it won't take the money for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think he'd be a massive fan of Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Because there's, like, not really spoilers, but there's loads of stuff in Bloodborne that was never part of its marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Because we realise in retrospect, all that you saw of Bloodborne, all its advertisements, all the artwork, really only applies to the very surface of that game.
Yeah.
There's stuff in there that's pure stuff that Del Toro's into.
Yeah.
So I think you might look at that and go, oh, probably would have made something a bit like that.
Yeah. Don't know. But, we will never know now.
Unfortunately.
Anyway, so that's gone by the wayside. But in the last week or so, me and Rory have developed some very excellent survival skills that Silent Hills could have benefited from.
It's great.
Could you have saved Silent Hills?
We saved ourselves.
Right. Okay.
I think that's priority number 1.
Should we
Yeah.
clarify what this is?
Yes, I think it's a good idea.
It's called the generation of Z.
Or Z.
If you're
or
Ameri-
Z for
No? Z.
all the Rorys out there.
Do you
No?
say JZ?
I say Z. I say Z.
Good.
Z. Zebra. It's a zebra.
Do you actually
Not a
say
zebra.
Z?
Yeah, I say Z.
You are just a walking paradox.
Did you get bullied a lot?
No. I actually got in trouble for bullying when I was a kid.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
It's all coming out now.
Wow. What did you do?
You don't seem very remorseful about it.
Well, it wasn't like mean bullying. It was when we were
what
kids.
is nice bullying?
It was when it was in primary school.
I don't count that.
Basically,
that's just when it scars the deepest.
It was.
Yeah, it stays with them for their
It was the
entire
whole
life.
playground was divided between the Star Wars kids and the Power Rangers kids.
Right.
So it was like these two armies, and I was the leader of the Power Rangers kids.
Were you?
I
the
was.
Red Ranger?
Yeah, I was
The
the Red
green-
Ranger. And then I don't know what the Star Wars kid. I didn't like Star Wars at that time, but they all loved it. So basically, the bell would ring and all the kids would go out on the playground and then just beat each other up for about half an hour, and the bell would ring again, and then we'd all go inside.
I think I just used to play my Star Wars toys.
You know what? I probably would have.
You would've got beaten
You
up.
would have got beaten.
Right.
I
merciless.
remember when I was at school, there was like an urban legend. I don't know if it's true about like some kid playing Power Rangers in the playground and then dying because someone kicked them in the kidney.
Jeez.
But I don't know whether that's something that's been just disseminated to so
Wait,
people
I
weren't.
remember that was me. Yeah, that was actually
This is the
me.
story that he's basically
really bad
ending
if
up
that's
to.
true.
Yeah, it was just subtle bullying. It
I
wasn't
realise
too
that.
bad. I killed someone by kicking them in the kidney.
Actually, should
Little
we-
Obi-Wan right in the kidney. He
Should
fell.
move on just in case that's true, actually. Anyway,
I don't think-
the generation of Z or Z, if you prefer, is a this is a really cool thing that we went to. Me, Rory, and Rich
It was
went a
awesome.
few weeks ago, and it is in the East End in London,
Mm-hmm.
in Whitechapel, and it's an immersive live theatre experience. And it's really cool. So
Okay.
it's like experiencing the zombie apocalypse in London.
Right.
And with stuff like that, I'm not really one for like audience participation and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But it's actually more like a play.
Right.
So when you get ushered into a room, there's kind of platforms kind of around the perimeter, and some of the main characters, we're not going to go too much in spoilers here, but we can talk about some bits in detail. The main characters are kind of soldiers, kind of Marines. They're kind of
Military,
like,
yeah, just
they're like
military, generic.
rounding up survivors,
Yeah.
and they kind of like move and like manipulate the audience,
Yeah.
like crowd control, and they'll like get to the edge of the room, so you stand on the platform, and then you kind of watch some of the scenes unfold.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's plants, I think, that get pulled out and they have a moment, and then sometimes it's real people
Yeah.
who get involved. And we were kind of guided through this. So you start us off, you're just kind of in this big holding area. It's in this like set of catacombs in Whitechapel, which
Yeah.
are really creepy.
It was really, really creepy.
And the set dressing's really good. There's loads of weird
The
stuff.
attention to detail was immaculate. We were in this kind of, it was almost like a car park area, and they had like painted on the walls like messages
Like
from
survival,
people
yeah.
from survived, and worn sleeping bags and kind of maps of cities with the thread strings over, like all this detail that
Yeah.
you didn't even have to look at. It was just there to like dress the set,
Yeah.
which was awesome because then it's way more believable. One of the coolest and most terrifying things was that the guns that they were using actually had blanks in them.
Yeah.
Like actual blanks. I thought it maybe would be something with this, would they acted with the sound or something to have
Yeah.
a gunshot effect?
Yeah.
But it was actual blanks in the guns.
Also, it's about a thing like where a gun fires, like in a film, it has a different sound to like in real life. It's actually not as spectacular in real life,
Right.
but it made you really
It's
jump.
loud.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
Oh
loud.
yeah, but it destroyed my ears.
Right.
Someone fired a gun right beside me
Me.
down in Beck's, and immediately I didn't hear anything in this ear for about a minute. It was just
Oh my gosh.
ringing. It
You had a
was-
great time.
I had a fantastic time.
But one of the coolest things about it,
Zombies!
and this is one of the coolest things about it, and this is where I don't want to go too much in spoilers. There's a bit where, obviously early on zombies appear, and
Yeah.
you all have to like leg it, and you get split up.
Right.
Like the Marines, like you go this way, you go this way, you go this way, and what you realise is actually the narrative is splintered.
Okay.
So if you're in a different group, you get to see a different scene unfold, and they all kind of fit together to like filter into the overall storyline.
Yeah.
So you could go like 2 or 3 times and get a completely different
experience.
experience, which is quite interesting.
And also in your groups that have split, you make individual choices that also affect, because we had some choices to make.
yeah,
that
so it's
would've
kind of
affected,
that,
so-
it's a very kind of game kind of narrative.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. Like, how much control do you actually have on it?
Not
Or are
really.
you
Like,
carried along
you're
for the ride?
carried along predominantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of like employed to get involved, like certain bits. Like for instance, Rich was told to.
They loved Rich.
Rich did loads of stuff. He saved us.
Every
He-
room they would go into, they'd be like, "Someone in the crowd, you!" And they'd like pick Rich, and it would be like his third time.
Was
They're
he there
like,
going,
"Pick me,
And he was like, mate, guys, I've got this. He has like barricade a door and stuff.
He was like,
and-
it was amazing. We got it all. I had a GoPro with me, so we managed to capture some of the
Yeah,
footage.
we're gonna put a
Says it
video
looks
up on the
good.
site next week showing you a bit of it. But like, just like, there was also one woman I knew, like a friend of a friend, and she was there, and she said she got blood spat all over her, which was
Yeah.
nice.
I was pretty.
There is a warning when you go in that you might get covered in blood,
I'd be quite
but
unhappy.
it washes out.
Yeah, I'd still be quite unhappy.
Well, that's the thing that you
Yeah.
would be in real life, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, if I've
Similar.
got my new trainers on or something like that, I'd go nuts.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
You take the zombie aside and you'd be like, hang on a
zombies.
second, hang on.
Now
this
I'm
isn't
angry.
okay. You're going to have to wash this up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good, and if there's ever a zombie apocalypse in London, I think it's probably the best way to prepare for that.
I was really. There were specific times where I almost kind of forgot that it was a performance. Like my mind got
Yeah,
so
when you
caught
killed
up in
that
it.
man.
I did, yeah. That was a
Yeah.
bit, but we won't.
Dressed as a
Yeah,
Power
so
Ranger.
so in light
Like Star
Ranger! And I
Wars.
just punched him in the face.
in
so
light
hard.
of Rory's intervention, the generation of Z apocalypse has changed to a degree, but it's running until the 5th of July, and you can book tickets online. Just search for the
So how
generation of
much
Z
is it?
apocalypse. I don't know. I think it's like £20 to £30, something like that.
And it lasts for how long?
About an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was quite long.
Okay.
And it's good as well. You actually the characterization is quite nice, and they have like conversations that are quite heated, and you kind of learn a little about
Yeah.
each individual
It's
character.
quite fun and creepy, and kind
really
of
good.
silly at the same time, but
Yeah.
knowingly silly.
Yeah.
yeah, it's really good.
I think my favorite point was when we was really tense. We were all walking through this room, and I had my the GoPro and I was filming, and I wasn't really looking where I was going, and I backed up and slammed into a table, and all the plates fell off the side, and me and everyone in the circle around me was just like, "Oh Jesus!" So we completely freaked out, and then I was like, "It's fine, it's
Everyone
fine,
thinks
it's
you're
just
a
plates."
plan.
Yeah, they thought I was part of the act, and it was just me being a dumbass and walking into the set.
If you want to go with Rory to the generation of Z, you can contact him on Twitter. Rory has powers,
I won't punch you.
and he'd be well up for bullying you while getting
Yeah.
attacked by zombies. So moving on. Earlier today we had a guest in. Mr. Kit Harington came in. Jon Snow to talk.
Jon Snow.
Yeah, so me and Gav sat down with him and we talked
He
about his.
sat on my very chair.
He didn't know, bless him. So he didn't know that he was in the
How dare
big
he?
chair, the big man's chair.
I can feel where his cheeks have indented this seat.
What's that like for you?
Tight buns.
That's what Egret said. So here he is. He's talking about his new movie Spooks: The Greater Good, which is out on the 8th of May.
So joining us today is Mr. Kit Harington. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very good, thanks.
How's it like being back in London?
It's lovely. It's really lovely. I'm sort of all over the place
Yeah.
at the moment, promoting this or that, or doing this or that, which is great as well. But that was a big reason I wanted to do this film. Actually, was that it filmed in London, and I could wake up in my own bed, and also I could be in my own city and do a film that sort of almost promoted my own city. Really.
What's it like promoting stuff? It's like, obviously this is brilliant. This is like the best one, but like last week, obviously the Avengers junket took place, and
God, they must have to go all around the
They
world.
went
wasn't
going around
it?
the world, and obviously there was that thing on Channel 4 where Robert Downey Jr. walked out. Is it quite a boring part of the kind of process, doing the press, kind of?
I don't blame Robert Downey Jr. for walking.
No, not
out.
at all.
Not because of what was asked or said. Really, just because for something like the Avengers, the press, the amount of press those guys must have to do on away from their families and for long periods of time, and then someone asks a difficult question. It's been a long day. I think they're kind of within their right to go, do you know what? I've had enough.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, the last time in Spooks, it is shot in London, and you spend a lot of time sort of running around a London that is going to shit, really. So it must be nice to be back, and it's actually quite sunny and stuff.
Yeah, well, we shot this time last year, and it was just nice to be in my own city when the sun was out and running around the rooftop of National Theatre with a gun.
Something you've always wanted to do.
We shot a lot of this in a kind of guerrilla style way. Actually,
Yeah.
I remember there was one bit where I had to run through Heathrow with a gun. And it was through members of the public and everything. And
Really?
I was turning to the first AD and saying, "Now, are you sure the police know what's going on, because I'm pretty sure here there's a shoot to kill policy if someone's got a gun in an airport, and they were like, it's fine, don't worry about
it's
it.
probably all right. Don't worry.
It's fine. Yeah.
I was a bit nervous about it.
Gavin rang him up last week. He said, they said, fine. Any problem? Speak to Big Dave.
Yeah, let me just check on that. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
There's quite a lot of stuff like that. There's a bit with the umbrella shop, which used to be right next to our old office. You can see the old IGN office, and it just looked like people in the background. They were all just real people. Like you were just shooting it on the fly, sort of.
Yeah, we didn't use. That was quite nice about this film. Actually, we didn't use many extras. Sort of, they'd set a camera up somewhere, and you'd have to. Every now and again, I'd get recognised or something, which would be a bit annoying. There was points when we couldn't lock off streets, and I had a film out at the time where I was all over buses, so you just see my face go past in the background. They'd have to call cut.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome the first couple of times. It wasn't after that.
What was that for Game of Thrones?
That was for Pompeii.
Pompeii.
I was all over buses, like scantily clad. And then I was pretending to be a spy, and my face goes past in the back.
Face and nipples come past your face.
But if you're with mates and that happens, you just go, oh, who's that? That's me.
Oh, what? Don't worry
This is a
about
bit
it.
weird because actually our meeting room, I should say, we have a massive picture of your face in our meeting room.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Jon Snow.
Okay.
So it's a bit weird. It's a bit like being in a strange meeting right now. Okay. I just like, do you ever get over that? Like just...
You get over it remarkably quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of thrilling the first time you see your face on a poster, and then after that, it just, I don't know,
Fades into the background.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, always if there's a new poster out, take a photo of it, just
Yeah.
so when my career's hit the skids, I can remember the good old days.
The glory days.
The thing that I really liked about Spooks, because obviously, like in spy thrillers and things like that, you have all these like huge scenes. And there was a scene that I could really sort of empathise with, because it's happened to me. Like I've been in the wrong terminal where I've needed to like get to another part of the terminal like really, really quickly. And I thought, I know how hard that is because I've gone through the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of depth we explored in this film. No, it was, but it was thrilling working in Heathrow. Again, difficult because you can't shut down Heathrow, so you had every now and again you had ding ding, the plane to Madagascar is.
And you just like, nail that take.
Seriously, and you just had to stop and then continue. And there were aspects of this film that were very tough to shoot, but I think it brought a sense of realism to it, walking through real London streets with real people.
Yeah.
Do you even get that thing? Like we've shot some stuff around London, and wherever you are in London, there's like some guy just knows when there's a camera and filming, and he come up and go, "Have you got a permit?" Like we always get that. Who's that guy?
Who is that guy?
I don't think he's a proper person.
Yeah.
No.
Do you even get that? I think imagine.
I found that we were very. What I found, I thought there was going to be more people yelling or trying to get in camera or being really like irritating. But I found the general public very respectful of filming etiquette.
Yeah.
They'd stand and watch.
Yeah.
And the first says, "Okay, rolling quiet, please." And everyone.
It's very British, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very British. We'd sit and watch, and then little applause.
At the end,
after,
you did so well.
Yeah. So I had a good experience with it.
Like, how did you like come to this? Like, were you a big Spooks fan before you had the movie?
I wasn't. And it's quite important to say I wasn't, not because I didn't like it, I just never really watched it. I'd seen one episode way back when it nearly first started.
It's like 2002. Like we're all roughly the same age. Like
Just
we were
post-
like kind of
it's just
15,
post 9/11,
16.
which is what's really interesting about Spooks. It came along at a time and tackled issues right from the start of our of that post 9/11 period, when the Secret Service went into overdrive, and it's grown up. I've grown up with the current news stories and Spooks in the background, trying to emulate them. But I came to it as a sort of with a clean slate, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know a huge amount about it, and I think that was important for Barrett, the director, and the producers, is that actually I was bringing something hopefully fresh to it, a new face and a fresh start with a movie.
I always thought it was quite a good like British counterpoint to 24. We started around the same time in the aftermath of 9/11, and tackled it in they had this extreme character, and that's kind of how America reacted to 9/11. They suspended laws, they twisted laws, and that's kind of what the Jack Bauer character faced every week. Is like, how far would you go to stop something like this happening again? Whereas Spooks was a more subtle variation of that, a more British take on it. And
Peter is really the kind of Jack Bauer.
Yeah.
He's the one that makes the really tough decisions and sacrifices people's lives to save. That's why it's called the greater good, to save more people. But we do tackle the issue of how do you make those decisions.
It feels
how
like
do you
the
make those
dynamic
calls?
of the film. Like I didn't really watch Spooks, but it felt like almost a passing of the torch to your character without going into specifics. Like your character is brought into the film, into a world he's been away from for a while, but it's kind of setting up for you to like take on that mantle. Towards the end, is that something was discussed when you took the project about maybe this becoming a kind of a running series? Because spy films, in general, kind of have multiple installments. They kind of go Bourne, Bond, so on.
I think it was briefly discussed. I think they're taking it one step at a time with this. They had a very successful TV series over 10 years, and they felt it lended itself well to film. But whenever the idea of sequels has come up, it's just been, let's see how this one does at the box office. Let's see if people are still interested in Spooks, if people are wanting to go and see it, if they're interested in this very specific type of British spy thriller that isn't Bond, that isn't Bourne, that isn't Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, that's a kind of amalgamation of lots of different things. And I think they will be. I really hope they are, because I think it is unique. I think it does have a place that can be filled and that people want to see, I think.
That's really good. So obviously we have you in talking about Spooks, but there's no possible way that we could have you in and not talk about Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones. Yeah.
It's all right, isn't it? Game
Yeah.
of Thrones?
It's doing all right.
Yeah. It's on right now. So what is it like? How does your life change when Game of Thrones, when a new series comes out?
It all gets quite intense when a new series is out. You know, sort of there's a great awareness around Thrones when we've got when a series is currently airing, and you palpably notice it on the streets. You know, more people kind of recognise you or come up and say hello and how much they're enjoying it, and that's great. That means people are watching it and people are still loving it. It's a huge part of my life. It's been a huge part of my life the last few years, and I dearly love doing it. It's quite interesting walking into Spooks after, while currently experiencing a TV show which has become a hit or is doing well. Yeah. Entering a film, of a franchise that did just that. Yeah. Working with Peter, who developed a character over 10 years, as I'm currently developing a character over now 5 years. Yeah. There's interesting parallels, and it was one of the things that drew me to Spooks. But no, it's been an intense ride with Game of Thrones.
Is it nice to return to Game of Thrones? Because obviously, family, it's an ensemble piece. You've done it for several years. Whereas doing stuff like this, Pompeii, you're putting yourself like front and center, and you're putting yourself out there more. Like, is that stuff that's coming to you? Those kind of offers? Are you pursuing that because you want to have this kind of independent career to Game of Thrones?
I'm just trying to do what I kind of want to do, first and foremost.
To be in,
Not trying to do roles to shape a career in a certain way. I take each year at a time, and I'm part of this wonderful ensemble that is Thrones. I have a family that I go back to. I have a great sort of comfort, a great security blanket with Thrones as far as keeping my profile up, and it means I can go off and do the things I want to do. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to really assess what Thrones meant to me until it's over for me. Yeah. And can't tell you when that is.
Obviously, like there's so much like secrecy that surrounds Game of Thrones. What's it like for you guys when you get like sort of new scripts and you just go, oh shit, that's gonna happen? Like that must be pretty exciting.
It's pretty cool, yeah. Because the first time you read a script is like the first time you're kind of going to be experienced what the audience experience when they watch it. So by the time now when it's coming out, I'm like, was that all as good as I thought it was when I first read it? But I remember reading this season and thinking, there's some holy shit moments. There's some really jaw-dropping moments that come towards the end of this season. If we've done them justice in front of camera, they could be quite groundbreaking. There's definitely one moment which comes later in the series, which is I'm going to be quite controversial, quite difficult to watch. Okay. So there's lots to follow with it. Yeah.
And can you break down that scene sort of frame by frame for us?
That scene
right now. If you want to act
It's
it
actually a
out, you
scene
can
I
go for
wasn't
it.
involved in.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay.
That's the only clue I'll give you.
So you get so
I haven't seen
You're
it.
not just getting sort of Jon Snow's pages. Then you're getting. Do you get sort of everything through, or do you?
I get. I mean, nowadays I think it's only certain cast members who get the full scripts through.
Okay.
Everyone, the rest of it's quite
Secret,
secret.
yeah.
It's principal cast members and who get the whole thing through. I didn't read the whole thing this year.
Yeah.
This year's very secret. We had to hand back in scripts. We had to
Really?
hand back in. Yeah, because it's. I mean, one thing gets leaked.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah,
first four episodes
got leaked, of course. Yeah.
which it means there's a huge amount of interest around it, and
Yeah.
we have to. We just don't want it. I just desperately don't want it to be spoiled for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want the temptation to be out there to read about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because it ruins it for people. And
Yeah.
You know.
Spoilers are such a massive thing now as well. Like, is that a thing that obviously you guys are aware of? But do you guys, if something is spoiled, like the first 4 episodes, or if people are spoiling like huge plot points, does that frustrate you as well?
I get quite fierce now when I'm doing a junket for Thrones and a journalist will try and trip me up.
Right.
Because it's, and not in a jokey way, but literally genuinely trying
to
trip me
get
up.
something
Yeah.
out.
Try and get that thing that they can pop, because it's just to get, it's for their own benefit, and it's
Yeah.
for everyone else's, it'll ruin it for everyone else. And
Yeah.
I think there's ways of asking questions, there's ways of interviewing someone to get a really interesting interview without
Yeah.
spoiling anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Which is what we're literally trying to do right now.
Yes, and you're doing very well.
We're doing it in a very interesting way. But how long? What's the moratorium on spoilers? Do you think? How long does time have to pass before it stops being a spoiler? Because we cover popular culture, games, TV, and there's always that tension. We have to cover it and keep up to date. At the same time, you realise the way that people consume media today is sometimes they might wait for the box set. So it's like, when does something cease to be a spoiler?
I personally try not to assume that anyone's watched any season.
Okay.
So when asked what my favourite moment of any season was, I'll try not to pick a spoiler.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
I'll say we're in the yard.
Yeah.
That memories.
I'll try and do that. But you're right. I think you can't just hide. You can't talk interestingly about the project you're in forever without telling, a crucial part of a certain season. So I think it's usually without spoiling major bits. If people haven't caught up to it yet, I assume that they're not going to watch it.
Yeah. I try
for a while anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I always almost spoil things for people, but just from enthusiasm. Like, we were on a flight back from Poland recently, and there was a girl sitting next to me who was watching literally the Red Wedding episode, and it got to the point where as they were going down, no, I'm not saying, but it got to the point where something was about to happen, and that's when they said, "Oh, everyone shut down your laptop." She put her laptop down. She had no idea what was coming. I was like, "Do you know what happens in this episode? It's the first time you're watching this." She was like, "Yeah, it's really good, isn't it?" I was like,
"Don't stop there."
I was like, they were literally walking out telling people to shut their laptops and stuff. I was like, "Oh my god, you're going to have the worst time when you get off this flight."
Yeah. I mean, it's been difficult with Spooks because I didn't watch the series, so trying to explain the plot to people while not telling them who dies in the film, and I'm an absolute expert at it with Thrones now. Because I'm
dance
one of the old guard in Thrones, which feels weird to say.
Yeah, you're on the lucky few.
Do you know what I figured out the other day from the pilot? The only people still surviving are me, Sansa. I'll do character names.
Yeah.
Me, Sansa, Arya, Bran,
Cersei,
Tyrion, Cersei, and Jaime.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
It's an elite club.
That's all from the pilot. That's all.
Do you guys ever go out as that elite club, just go out on the town and be like, "No, sorry, you can't come. You can't come out. Sorry, Sean. No, you stay."
Sorry, we're not showing you yet. We need to speak to George whether you can be part of the Seven.
It's mad that. And
Seven Kingdoms, 7 people.
And we may even lose more this year.
Yeah. Do you actually have any contact? I know obviously the producers talked to George R.R. Martin. Mm-hmm. Is it? And you guys ever have any contact with him? Get his blessing initially, or do you see him much?
Do see him. He's very busy nowadays. He's trying to write those books, and I've never seen an author with a sort of manager or publisher on their shoulder, literally following them everywhere. But that's now what George has.
Yeah, that's the world he lives in now.
Because it must be incredibly tough, I think, as a writer that nurtured these things over years and years, and you don't want to do them injustice by hurrying them or rushing them, and you want to live your life as well, and yet a whole global audience is waiting on your next book, and you have someone on your shoulder tapping you going, it needs to be written. And that's a story age old, and it's happened to writers all along, but I think it must be difficult writing under that pressure. It must be incredibly difficult.
I watched a great interview that he did at Google, where he said that pretty much as soon as it was a popular TV show, he stopped reading anything about it on the internet. Because he could feel it kind of unconsciously influencing him. And he didn't want to realise that obviously he's seeded things throughout the books, and he doesn't want to read that somebody's worked out what he's done, and then that maybe makes him second guess his plan, and he's the anxiety of influence because of everyone watching it. So he's aware that there's a huge interest, but he's not reading, like he's like shutting it off.
He has to stick to his original plan because he's left clues through the books, and just because someone's worked it out, was taken the time to work it out, which is bizarre. It's I think it you know, I think he has to stick to what he originally laid out, I guess, and that's why he's avoiding it all. It's a bit like I avoid reading things about myself on the internet or about the character or anything because that could inadvertently influence how I'm trying to play him.
I guess so, yeah.
If someone says, "Oh, he's a bit too like this," I'm like, "Okay, well, I got a bit more like that." And actually, that's not my original plan for the character. That's not how I saw him developing over the years.
And there's a few things about Jon Snow that have become like iconic, certain phrases, and like in some ways, have any of those things ruined your life? The kind of you know nothing, Jon Snow. Does that happen a lot?
It does.
Or are people more respect? It does.
It does. I'm so intrigued by that sentence. Yeah. Because I've never really known what it means. It's like the worst insult in the world. You know nothing. Like, great. Not do better than that one.
Like filming must have finished that day. That was good though. Not knowing what that had spawned.
It's such a important phrase in the books that it's said and said and said that it was always going to be a bit of a catchphrase. But it's sort of, I think it'll. I'm just waiting for whatever the next catchphrase is that comes up.
It's like, please let there be another one because I've had enough of you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
What do you usually tend to get from people who come up to you? Are you usually quite respectful?
It's very respectful. It's very enthusiastic. People always kind of digging for crazy stories about fans, and actually
quite nice.
There aren't many. People are generally very enthusiastic and nice and lovely and aren't.
I got recognised from doing this.
Oh yeah,
in Marks and Spencer's
quite disturbing,
with my girlfriend, and I was quite chuffed about that. He asked for a selfie, which my girlfriend took using an iPad, and it was just weird because initially I thought afterwards I was really worried that I was maybe rude to him. I was like, oh, was I not nice? I think I was. And then it's like weird that interaction that somebody you've never met thinks they know you really well.
Yeah, that must be really hard because then they go away with this story, and if they've got a story that becomes like, if you just happen to be like coming out of your house,
you just
or
had a
bad day.
I mean, I like it so much. I walk around in the same clothes as I wear. Hey, look, it's me, guys.
He's standing next to the poster at Oxford Circus. Right?
Yeah. Oh, this whole thing. Oh no.
Don't worry about it.
But you kind of like played into certain aspects of the character recently. You did the sketch, the dinner party sketch on Set My Ex. Does that have to like get greenlit by anyone, or are they happy for you to
I think most things that we do publicising the show or about the show go through HBO to make sure they're happy with it, because it's their franchise, it's their baby, and so things do have to get greenlit. But it's also, you don't want to ruin the character for people by taking the piss out of him too much.
Like bring the reality of it.
I was that sketch I really liked. I thought it was very funny. It was a great kind of comic device.
Yeah.
But you don't want to dress up as the character in comical situations all the time. Otherwise, that sort of muddies who they are in the show. So it's few and far between I'll be doing those sorts of things.
I like the pancetta line.
Yeah.
What's this, pancetta?
Yeah. So, you've filmed quite a lot of scenes with quite a lot of people. Who are your favourite people to film with on Game of Thrones?
John Bradley, who plays Samwell, is one of my very closest friends in the world. And I think I like filming with people who take their work very seriously, who are open to discussion about the scene, but don't live in their character and aren't constantly quite distant on set. I like to have fun at work, like anyone wants to have fun at work. And me and Jon have a great time and know when to be serious and when not to. And, and he's one of my closest buddies. Alistair Thorne, Owen Teale, is about as far from his character as you can possibly get.
That's interesting.
Big Welshman and very, very funny.
Yeah.
Those are the people I hang around. Those are the people I spend all my time with and that I love. And then there's all the guys that you don't see.
Have you ever been to King's Landing? Have you ever been to that location?
No.
Dubrovnik?
No. We filmed in a studio, and I once snuck into a big banquet scene. Like, because they were filming next door in my cloak and sat down.
Can you spot you on screen?
No, I think either they edited it out, or they just didn't use that take.
Oh my god! If somebody found that, they would have thought this.
I know. I was a bit naughty.
Yeah,
I just probably ruined a whole shot there.
And people are really reading into it. What's this mean?
Yeah. And all the background, all the extras were like, thought it was hilarious. And I was like, I could get fired for this,
or get someone fired for it for letting you in there.
Yeah.
So Game of Thrones, you're part of a massive ensemble but you've been there from the beginning. Whereas you're coming into Spooks, into another massive ensemble who work together quite a lot. Like, was it hard being the new guy? Or
I was welcomed in with open arms by Peter, who is Mr. Spooks, and by the producers and by the director Barrett, who's known the series for a long time. And I never, I didn't feel too much pressure. But it was interesting. It was an interesting parallel, working in Thrones, in a very successful franchise, to coming into one. There was a definite. I now definitely do make a real effort with new actors coming into Thrones to be welcoming. As if I didn't before, but I was a bit more so now.
Before.
I was an absolute dick before. No, but it's. I am nervous about it coming out and Spooks fans not enjoying it as much as the series. That I can't say that doesn't play on my mind, because it does. But I'm happy with it. I think it's a great film. I think it's very true to Spooks, and it's also its own thing.
It's quite a hard thing to do, obviously, to appeal to those fans. But yeah, obviously you're going to go and reach a much bigger, newer audience by having a theatrical release. So quite difficult to get it right to appeal to the kind of loyal.
It's very difficult getting a TV to film transition.
Yeah,
it's many times failed, and we're hoping this doesn't. They threw everything at it. They had a much bigger budget, and they went full on with this. And I think it works. And we just have to hope that it attracts not only the Spooks fans but a new audience. And if it does, then there's a future for it. So we'll just see.
Yeah. With Game of Thrones, how aware do you read the books at all, or do you sort of have to keep that a little bit separately and sort of have to have your own thing?
I read the books yonks ago now, and I chose actually not to read the 5th book. I was going to, and then I feel the TV show is a different thing from. I'll go back and read the books when I finish.
Yeah.
Okay,
but I feel that the TV show is a different thing.
You're diverging a lot.
The books now, and maybe the character in the books won't necessarily help me with the one I've developed. He's still 14, 15 in the books. It's a big difference. And as long as I've got the bare bones of the character George wrote, and I'm still true to the one I developed right at the start, then I think the going to the books could be misleading for me.
Yeah. You said that obviously it's difficult going from TV to film, and obviously Game of Thrones is on TV, but that kind of HBO production, similar with the Netflix productions, it's almost weird to think of that as TV. Do you think there would ever be a Game of Thrones movie, or because of the production values, it's there's no point really?
I think it's possible. I think it lends itself very well to the big screen. Thrones. They put it out on IMAX, and apparently it worked. It worked surprisingly well, and whenever I've seen premieres, it's been on a big cinema screen, and it has felt like it belongs there. I can't tell you whether they'll ever do that. I can't tell you whether they ever want to do that. They wrote it as a TV show. It was always a TV show, and David and Dan felt it lent itself very well to episodic storytelling. And I don't know if they want to throw millions and millions of dollars a 2-hour movie in the future, I think it would have to almost be the climax of something rather than a whole series squished down into 2 hours.
Yeah,
Make a lot of sense.
I almost feel like they should use cinemas for like other things. Like sometimes, like when the World Cup's on or like Wimbledon, they use cinemas as a way to like watch sport. Like, I would definitely buy like a season pass for Game of Thrones and go weekly and see it at the cinema at a certain time. I think it'd be a great way to see Game of Thrones, like on the big screen each week.
I think it's not long before that happens.
Yeah.
And I think it will happen in smaller cinemas first, and then bigger cinemas will catch on, because the movies are changing and TV's changing, and they're merging in many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think the desire to go to the cinema is about experiencing something, and Thrones, I think, lends itself very well to that experience.
Yeah. Why hasn't that happened already? That's a really good idea.
No,
Well done.
Not in charge.
Let's do that.
Not in charge.
Start a business.
Make it happen.
Not in charge.
You say, like, obviously you have to keep yourself away from rumors and stuff like that, but there's a big rumor on the internet that people have sort of tried to piece together that you're actually not the son of Ed Stark, you're a son of a Targaryen, and that if that's true, you've got quite a big sort of stake in the throne. Like, would you be up for that?
I know what Jon knows.
Okay, yeah.
Which isn't nothing. I know what Jon knows, which is that his father was Ned Stark.
Yeah.
And that when his father died, any hope of knowing who his mother was died with him.
Okay.
So he's an orphan. And
I thought you said he's northern.
he's northern.
Like that's
He's
what
northern
happens to all of
orphan.
us. Just he's northern. That's the narrative.
So I don't ever speculate.
Yeah.
I don't ever think about it. I don't ever theorise. Some of the cast do. I don't.
Yeah.
To
You're
be
not gonna
honest,
bother.
Thrones takes up so much of my brain space that theorising about who my mother or parents are would drive me insane.
Do you
Go
ever
to
come
bed
up-
every night thinking about it. No.
Yeah. You're not going to come up with ideas and be like, George, I got a wicked idea for what should happen to my guy.
No. No, absolutely not. I never even talked to George about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Or David and Dan.
Yeah.
It's, none of us, we have little theories. We don't spend so much time talking about Thrones.
Of course,
it's
yeah.
not going to do it in our free time.
Yeah. So, I mean, away from Game of Thrones and away from spooks, then what kind of stuff are you into? Like, have you seen the new Star Wars trailer? Did you watch that?
I saw the first one with the sword with the
hilt thing.
thing. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I wouldn't profess to be a massive Star Wars fan, but I think that it's J.J. Abrams, isn't it? I think that's going to be I think that might be a really. I love what he did with Star Trek, and because I was a big Trekkie.
Okay, cool.
And so I'll go and see that. I think that could be really good.
Star Trek reboot is really good as well. Like it's similar, it's almost similar to spooks. Like you taking something that people know for a long period of time, and you try to launch it to a much wider audience and bring them in.
Yeah.
And my mum's a huge Star Trek fan, and we went to see it, and he just nailed it because it was like he was doing something quite dangerous, but basically saying everything you know about the show that loved, all those characters don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But then rebooting it, but it kind of worked.
Yeah, I really like the Star Trek movies. I don't know. I'm a bit of I quite like futuristic shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go and see Star Wars.
How about video games? Did you play games at all, or do you just not have time?
Yeah. We were talking about video games on the way in the car here. Actually,
Really?
the last ones I really got into were, and I'm about to buy a new house and a TV, and I'm thinking about installing an old N64.
Nice.
Mario Kart and GoldenEye.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
But
cool.
I'm a FIFA guy. But
Yeah.
I'm not a first player shoot 'em up.
No.
The minute it started turning into that, I couldn't
You
do
lost it.
Yeah.
I couldn't turn and go up and down. No,
Yeah.
massively disappointing. But I'm not a huge gamer. No.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of other stuff, you watching anything on TV at the moment? You get time to watch other TV shows, or are you just sort of work mode all the time?
I'm need to. At the moment, I'm re-experiencing going back to the theatre, having been out of London for a long time, not being able to get tickets for stuff.
Yeah.
I'm finding it difficult to watch drama at the moment. Spending so much of my time promoting it or being in it.
Yeah, doing quite a lot of serious stuff as well.
Yeah, I love documentary, so I'm because it kind of takes me out of things, and there's a great crossover happening in documentary at the moment, which is that it's turning into into drama in
Yeah.
a way. Whether it should or not is another thing. But if
Yeah.
you've seen The Jinx,
I was going to
We
ask
just
you.
literally about to say The
gonna
Jinx,
ask you.
yeah, it's
Sounded like that's where
don't
you
tell
go.
me anything. I'm on episode
Okay.
2.
Episode
Isn't
2,
that
okay,
funny?
yeah.
Like
Spoilers.
spoilers
Yeah.
in a documentary.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I totally agree with that way of documentary film.
Well, I think there's some stories about how they've made that as well, and
Yeah.
how they like held stuff back, and were
Yeah.
It's quite
less
dodgy.
than honest in
Yeah.
in its construction.
Is that sort of thing around like Catfish as well?
Mm.
Catfish is
Yeah.
a great documentary, but you were like,
The first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
sort of how much of this is genuine and how
Yeah.
much is. But that's great crossover. Like,
Yeah.
I remember the first time I watched
Dramatic.
Catfish,
Yeah.
I
It
it
thought
can destroy
people's
people's lives.
I thought Catfish first time I watched it was going to turn into a horror movie.
So
when
did I,
when
when
they
they
pull
get
up
to
to the
the barn,
house
yeah.
and they're in
Yeah.
the dark. I actually
Yeah.
thought this was like a found footage movie. I
Yeah.
knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it took a
We've seen
massive
Blackfish
music.
as well.
Yeah.
Blackfish is horrible.
Blackfish
Isn't it?
is
Yeah.
really disturbing.
It's really, really.
Exactly.
But I think that's quite. It might be manipulating, it might not, but it's quite a good documentary.
Oh, definitely.
But it's
yeah.
also like potent as well. Like its actual influence it's had since.
Yeah.
Like people have
Yeah.
stopped going there. Like the profits have declined.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
had an impact on
That's
the world
really good,
around.
though,
That's
yeah.
which is why I assume you would want to make a documentary film rather than
Yeah.
another type
Yeah.
of film. Is to have an impact on the world around you and the subject you're covering.
Yeah, I was having dinner with a friend in Iceland, and he ordered whale. He ordered minke whale. I was like, "Why have you ordered that?" And he's like, I just wanted to taste it. I was like, "Have you seen Blackfish?" He said, "No, I haven't." So while we were waiting for his whale to come out, I explained the story of Blackfish to him, and he started getting tears in his eyes. He's quite sensitive.
It's a different thing in Iceland, though, isn't it? Because in Iceland, it's part of their culture to hunt
Yeah.
whale. And because I went to a restaurant where they were serving 3 different burgers:
Yeah.
whale, puffin, and reindeer.
Yeah,
And I was a bit like, oh, okay, should I?
Yeah.
I love experiencing new things, but that's a bit odd.
Yeah, they
but
don't
the
go.
way they explain, I didn't in the end. But the way they explained it to me is that
Yeah.
this is part of our culture. We do it in a way that is, sustainable.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's just hunting.
The
like,
idea,
the animals.
the idea of
different.
eating a puffin for some reason didn't go down well.
I was going
Yeah.
to ask you which was the best, but no.
Yeah.
Did you eat the whale?
I didn't know, but I did. I went with some of the like games developers, and they're like, "Oh, we've laid on this like big spread for you with these like amazing like Icelandic treats." And we're like, "Okay, what's that?" And they like didn't. They was like, "Oh, we'll tell you after." And I thought, well, I shouldn't have eaten it, but I ate it. And they were like, "Oh, that was puffin." It's
Yeah.
like, there's like a shop next door with loads of like nice toys of puffin, and you're just eating them. They're like, "Yeah, that's what we do."
You're lucky you didn't try the piston shark.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the fermented.
Fermented shark.
There's a lot
I
of
had
fermented.
That was rank.
Yeah.
When did you eat in Iceland?
Yeah.
I suppose you're there for quite a while.
I was there for a while. God,
Just
boy.
a bit. Might as well get used to this.
Yeah.
And a £4 Mars bar.
Have you seen The Imposter? That was like a really good documentary. It was like 2 years ago.
No, what was that again? I
You should
was
check
meant
that
to
out.
watch
So it's
that.
about a kid from Texas that goes missing and turns up like 8 years later in Spain.
Yeah, and he sort of, it's about both of them pretending that
That's
he's
right,
their,
yeah.
their
Like lost son,
that they
yeah.
lost.
Yeah, both parties are like benefiting from
There's
this
a great one on
lie.
Scientology at the moment as well, which I need
Yeah,
to watch.
Going
It's
Clear.
another HBO.
Going Clear is HBO, yeah.
Was it Going Clear?
Yeah, and you can't. I think they've might be wrong on this, but it's something like they filed a legal injunction, so it
Yeah,
can't
they
be
have.
brought out in the UK. And it's
Okay.
based on a book, is it?
It is based
and
on
the
a book.
book you can't get
No.
in Waterstones or anywhere because it's banned
Yeah.
in the
Right.
UK. Louis Theroux's making a documentary on Scientology,
Oh yeah, I want to
and
say
they've
that.
Yeah,
riposted
that'd be
by they're saying that they're making a documentary about him.
Okay.
So they're going to release it at the same time.
If you're going to make one about us, we'll make one about you.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
want to see the Scientology documentary on Louis Theroux.
I actually want to watch a documentary about Louis Theroux.
Yeah.
They haven't thought this plan through. I want to watch the thing they're making.
What if they just make a really good documentary about him? They're just like, it's just, no, nothing bad in it.
He's
It's
actually
like,
a great journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be pretty intimidating, that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Are you on Twitter at all?
I'm not. No, I'm not a social media person.
Yeah.
Because documentaries and leaping, like we both recently read a book by John Ronson called "So You've Been Publicly Shamed," and it's all about social media.
Right.
And he's also writing a book on
I
Scientology.
heard a
Yeah.
program about this, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
about kind of stuff
fascinating.
that happened because of social media.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
people sending very innocuous tweets, maybe like
getting people fired.
yeah, and
Yeah.
looking back, maybe misjudged, like you've phrased that badly, or maybe it's not as funny as you think. And then people finding these tweets, retweeting them, and suddenly their life is like destroyed.
Yeah.
You're probably better off out of it.
I just haven't got time for it.
Yeah.
I think for people who don't do this kind of work of
Yeah.
publicising a movie
Mm.
and doing interviews, and then it's great. You get to tell the world about yourself and interact with your friends over social media. I've got no problem with it. I think it's a great tool and it's a great work tool. I do this for a living, so going and then tweeting about myself afterwards just seems like so much kind of
Me.
Yeah.
I just had another great interview. I was brilliant.
Yeah.
Watch out for that one.
Check out 3 minutes and 19.
I'll post link later. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some really awful celebrities on Twitter.
Yeah. And also I don't want to do a fake one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
odd
kind
as
of
well.
someone else doing it
Like a
for me,
group of
saying,
people,
"Hey
like-
guys, go and see my film." It just seems like insulting any kind of fan base that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess if they're going to go, they're going to go, aren't they?
Yeah. Go and see Spooks. It's a wonderful movie. May the 8th.
I'll tweet that out for you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do your
Yes.
thing? So-
Like this is probably the best thing we've ever done. So just to
Okay.
build it up.
Don't say that.
It's
Or
not.
if it's
So
not.
play a little quiz
Okay.
called "Bastard or Not a Bastard."
Right.
Okay.
And you're going to give me names?
Famous historical figures, so we can't get sued. So it's okay.
Okay, and they're actual bastards.
Well, some are and some aren't. That's for you to decide.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Like, how many are there?
There are 6.
Okay, right. let's do
Okay.
it.
So first one, Lord Byron.
Bastard.
Legitimate. So born in wedlock to Captain John Mad Jack Byron and Catherine Gordon. So
There we
I
go.
can't believe you knew all these as well.
I knew all
just off
this.
the top
This
of your
is-
head
yeah.
going in.
All
Okay.
right. Next one.
Confucius.
Legitimate.
He's a bastard.
Oh, come on.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
All right.
Right.
3, Leonardo da Vinci.
Bastard.
I thought
or
you
not
said
a
Leonardo
bastard.
DiCaprio then.
Oh, that's number 4.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Mhm.
Bastard.
Correct. Out of
Yes.
wedlock, son of wealthy Florentine legal notary and a peasant,
Great.
but from small
Most educational
beginnings.
podcast
From
I've
small
done.
beginnings.
Okay.
Number 4 then. Winston Churchill. Bastard or not a bastard?
Legitimate.
He is legitimate.
Yeah.
You didn't
Proud,
put any
proud.
facts there for my
You
one.
couldn't
Don't
be.
need any
You couldn't.
facts.
You couldn't. I reckon you wouldn't be able to get to be prime minister at that time if you weren't
The real deal.
legitimate. I reckon.
That's good. That's good thinking behind there.
Founding father of America, Alexander Hamilton.
Bastard.
Got it in one.
Boom.
Fantastic. What is the fact for that?
He was the product of an affair. That's
Product of an affair.
Yeah, I think that's the terminology they use. And he was the author of key economic policies. So even if you're a bastard, you can do that.
There you go.
And final one then. Lawrence of Arabia. Bastard or not a bastard?
Well, he was gentry, wasn't he? He was a high-born kind of at that time. High-born. I'm turning into Game of
I'm
Thrones
giving you
world.
nothing. Yeah.
Technically, so are you, and so is Jon Snow, though.
I'm gonna gamble and say you finished with a bastard. So bastard.
He was a bastard.
Yes.
He was the illegitimate son of a knight and his children's nanny.
There you go.
A knight. The son of a knight. So I think you got 4 out of 6.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I know my bastards.
Excellent.
There you go.
Thank you very
I think
much.
that's a Super Bowl moment to probably end this
that's really
on.
good, yeah.
Great, thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Cool. So Jon Snow there.
Yeah,
He's a nice man.
he is.
He knows
Much-
something.
yeah, he's much posher in real
Yeah,
life.
because I wasn't sure whether
Well,
he was northern or
I know,
not.
I felt really
but
northern.
acting, eh?
And now it's like playing up to him.
Brilliant.
I'm from the north. He's like, I'm not. Right. This happened at the weekend. Annoyingly, after we recorded all the stuff for last week, probably the biggest story on IGN all month was the kind of new look at Jared Leto as the Joker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really early.
But yeah, really uncontroversial. Everyone loved it. So yeah, moving on to Batman.
Yep.
Let's briefly. We've talked about it loads on site. You can see Joshua and Jim talking about it and stuff on IGN.com. But it's different, isn't it?
It is
so
different.
should we just
It
go?
had to
Should we
be
go
different.
for like gut reactions and then maybe more considered reactions?
Yeah,
So I think
okay.
those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when I first saw it, because also there was a kind of a leaked tweet, and I thought that can't be real.
Yeah.
And it looks like it probably was. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first reaction was like, oof, don't particularly like that. But then you never know what it's going to be like in the movie, because
It's a picture without a performance.
exactly.
Allegedly, he might not have tattoos in the film.
Right.
That's what I heard.
That's such a
think
weird
those-
thing to do if he
Yeah,
doesn't.
I think it was just a press pic, but yeah, I don't know why.
Well, don't release it then.
Unless it's
I
a
know.
test to see whether people dug it or not. But
Right.
I think they've started filming, but maybe there's a scene where he has a shirt off and they could go that way. But it's on his
Well, that's
forehead.
it as
Yeah, it's
well.
on his
Yeah,
forehead,
you
yeah.
no,
It's on his forehead.
and that's the worst one of them all.
That is, I
Damage.
think that is the worst one.
I think the main problem with it, which is a problem a lot of people had, is that it's too self-aware.
Yeah.
It's much too self-aware to have ha 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 ha.
It's like he knows what he's about.
Do you think he went in with a sound mind to a tattoo artist and was
Yeah.
like, "Can I get my own mouth on my arm? And can I get ha 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 ha?"
But you know,
on
maybe
my
there is a storyline explanation as to
Yeah.
how that happens.
Like,
Again,
do you want to know how I got these tattoos?
no, not like that, Rory.
Tattoo
You
artist.
fool.
But it's like,
But yeah, I don't know.
but also, like, I'm not. I get, you know, I think people cited over the weekend. There's a Jim Lee Joker that has tattoos as a dragon tattoo,
Yep.
which is almost like a mystery. Like, why do you have this really weird Oriental
yeah.
tattoo?
Yeah.
But I think with the tattoos is, I can't imagine the Joker like sitting still for 12 hours.
No.
And
Yeah.
So he probably wouldn't
if he
fly
stabbed
from the
someone in
UK to
face,
America, would
you
he?
know- No, he wouldn't.
No.
No, he just, or if he would, it would be like in a big chattery teeth. That's what he likes.
What?
He likes chattery teeth, Joe.
Why would he fly with
fly
a
in a pair of
plane?
chattery teeth?
Because it'd be themed, and that would make sense. Hey, David Ayer.
I think the aerodynamics
Get off
are
my
way
movie.
off on
Doesn't
that.
make any sense.
It's not
to
the
me.
best thing I've ever said, all
No,
right?
it's not.
It's not the
'Cause
best
it doesn't
one.
make any sense.
It didn't make sense
He'll
in my
fly
head.
from the UK to America
In a pair of giant
chattery
teeth.
Anyway, he's also got metal teeth.
He has, yes.
What's that about?
I think it's all right.
Maybe he had a lot of sweets
It's a
when
bit
he was a
crazy.
kid.
I like the idea that his mouth might be weaponized a bit. Like he might
Like
bite
Jaws?
people. Yeah,
Can bite people.
I just don't know. Like, it could be brilliant, but at the same time, it could be terrible.
Because when I first saw his like haircut and the treatment there, I thought he might be a bit like the Scott Snyder Batman and the
Yeah.
Red Capullo, where it was almost like very gentlemanly like.
Yeah.
And I thought that'd be a different way to go. But again, I think we should say for context, you know, a year ago nobody liked the first picture of Quicksilver. Everyone loved that character in that movie, even if they weren't still a
the
fan
picture
of.
is still terrible.
Yeah, and the picture is still terrible,
And the character design's still terrible. But what he did in the movie was cool.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could
yeah,
still.
yeah.
I'm not saying like you sit in the city and love the look, but because there's no performance, there's no
Yeah.
scene, there's no dialogue that can make that character scary
Yeah,
or
yeah,
funny
yeah.
or whatever.
And that's probably going to be a huge part with Jared Leto. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I think he could definitely
Yeah.
pull it off with a good
But,
performance.
like-
And I think even then we'd still say the damage tattoo is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's just an
Balls.
odd thing. But going from the Joker to Batman.
Or, by the picture that's come out this week, Fat Man. Because I think he
Oh!
looks... he just looks really chubby.
He's gone a bit too far, hasn't he? Christian Bale had kind of like a bulky leanness to him. This is kind of like the new treatment of Godzilla. He's a bit big.
Do you know, it's not the top half of him. It's he really does look like the Dark Knight Returns one, where he's kind of like
Just-
much stockier and
monster.
thick.
It's like a pillar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A golem.
So you're a huge Batman fan, Alex. What do you think about the suit initially?
I don't mind it. I like the bat logo. I think that looks cool. That's
Oh, this is actually a big question for every Batman fan. Big ears or small ears?
I think it looks very cool with small ears there.
Yeah.
He looks very cool in black and white. I'm not sure about in color, but that's okay because most of Zack
film-
Snyder's
Yeah, it's
movies
probably gonna be
are completely
very dark.
saturated.
Oh, did
so.
you see that over the weekend, The Man of Steel in colour?
Yeah.
It did look really nice, didn't it?
Yeah.
It looked a much more hopeful movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to look at the kind of. It's hard to say what it's kind of made up of. It looks almost like it's made up of fiberglass or something
I
like
heard
that. It's
someone
really
say
weird.
look, also like a bit like gaffer tape.
It does look like gaffer tape. Yeah,
It's
you're
been
right.
laid
Last
and like
minute job.
wrinkled.
Yeah.
He's got a good chin though, hasn't he?
He has
He's got the chin.
got a good chin. So I would say, and for those listening to the audio podcast, we are looking at the poster which you can find on site. Like from the head up, and the black and white picture,
That
he
looks-
looks like badass.
It looks like Batman.
Yeah.
It looks like a very It almost like looks like a comic book Batman.
And I think what's not doing it any favors is the black cape behind him is making him look fatter than he really is.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I stopped wearing capes.
I think one of the other opinions people have been expressing is, you know, going from that to the Joker that we've seen and obviously what we know of Superman from Man of Steel. It's like, how do all these looks and aesthetics like mesh together? They all seem kind of...
Because obviously he's got the armored Batman as well.
He's
from
got that in the trailer as
Yeah.
well, and we've seen a picture of Aquaman. He's heavily tattooed.
Yeah.
No top on. We've seen Wonder Woman. It's like some people are expressing concern that, you know, and it's obviously whatever they do, they're going to be compared to Marvel because Marvel got a lot of success right now, and they've got one guy who's kind of overseeing the thing, and it feels like there's like a brain trust where. a lot of sharing is done, so all these things are kept consistent. And if you believe what's been said, the reason that Edgar Wright didn't do the Ant-Man film is because it wouldn't be in line with the overall universe.
Right.
People are expressing concerns that maybe these elements don't feel like they match up.
Right.
Do you think there's anything to say, or too early? It's probably too early.
It is really too early.
Pictures,
but
isn't
I
it?
think, because obviously the other news that came out is that, potentially seeing Batman within the Suicide Squad movie. Does that Batman fit with that Joker? I don't know. And also following in Nolan's footsteps, where everything felt properly believable in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that this is going to hang together. I've said this all along. The biggest problem with this bunch of films is Zack Snyder. I don't think he's a particularly good filmmaker.
It's hard because Man of Steel's trying to be quite realistic, and I think it has been confirmed. But you've seen the concept art for Killer Croc going around.
No.
I think that's legitimate. I think
Okay.
it is. I'm really sorry, everyone, if I just
talking.
made this up. But they said they're going to... Yeah, just double check that Killer Croc is in Suicide Squad. That's probably something I should know. But
I haven't heard any news about it.
I've probably made that up. Anyway.
Well, I think it was different because originally it was reported that he was going to appear in Suicide Squad, but just through CCTV footage, possibly.
Right.
Not have a large role.
Batman,
But then,
yeah.
as we saw him apparently at the set in Toronto, it would imply that he does have a bit more of a hands-on role.
I think it'd be really good for the Suicide Squad movie, because nobody knows what the Suicide Squad is.
I didn't really know much about them until...
I've read bits and bobs, but not like a hugely known thing. For that film to have Batman in, people will go, I'll go see that because
Yeah,
I
they
think
throw that
I'm
in
going to
the
get
trailer.
10 minutes of Batman.
So
Absolutely.
Killer Croc is indeed in Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Right.
I would pronounce the actor's name.
Oh, I'm not going to... He's in...
Don't get me
Yeah,
to do it.
Adewale. I'm just going to butcher it.
But
so
he was
better if I
in
don't.
Thor 2.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything about concept art.
I think let's just go to images. I think they said it's going to be a mixture of prosthetics and CGI. Are they going to bring him together?
Is this a person that looks like a crocodile? Is this the idea?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, that's a... suddenly I think from Man of Steel, it felt like we were going to get basically... Yeah, actually, just rewind. When we got Man of Steel, it was being sold, explicitly, as, what The Dark Knight was for Batman.
Yeah.
This is
gonna
for
be for
Superman.
Superman,
And
yeah.
they love putting Christopher Nolan's name all over that advertising
Yeah.
from the man behind The Dark Knight. And then suddenly this has had to do a 90-degree turn
Yeah.
and become really more fantastical. Because
Yeah.
suddenly you're going to have things like Killer Croc and so on, yeah. I think that's the art.
So that looks quite a lot like
Arkham.
Arkham, yeah.
That's the one I saw floating about. I don't know if people can't
Wow.
see it, but if you listen to this podcast and you're on the internet, I think you've probably already seen the rumoured one.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
a superhero account tweet it out, but I don't know if that's official. I feel like we would have run that more if it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that
It's
is.
probably
Also,
rumored.
because he's just wearing a nice pair of slacks with a pair of braces hanging down. It's
He kinda looks like a rugby
But
player.
again, that's another crazy thing to be in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to go too serious with all these kind of
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
very colorful
I'm looking forward to it,
characters.
and of course, sometimes we get feedback saying we're really down on it. I'm not down on it. I want it to be good.
But of course I want it to be good. I've just got this reservation,
Yeah.
and because I don't think Zack Snyder's done anything to kind of alleviate that from
I think I think DC could do really well instead of having Snyder tweeting out stuff, David Ayers tweeting out stuff. I don't know. It's good that the directors are doing it. I think it's a really cool way to communicate these things and keep people hyped and interested and looking out for this stuff. I think they do really well to have that one guy who's overseeing the universe, the Kevin Feige type figure.
Yeah.
Who that
That's
guy
not
you
so
can trust.
closely associated to one particular film or two films.
Yeah, because if
But
these
somebody
guys are doing
who's-
these films, they need to concentrate 100% on the
Yeah,
film.
I agree.
Rather than go, oh, they're going to be using Aquaman, right? We need to make sure that should be someone else with a bigger picture and plan.
Yep.
You could get someone like a Jeff Johns to do it,
Yeah.
who's chief creative officer at DC.
Yeah.
He works in TV. He worked with Jeff Loeb and stuff. I think
Yeah.
he might be a good guy.
Well, do you think it would work the same way it has with the DC films? Because with Marvel, mostly, with a few exceptions such as Daredevil, they all, even though they're about different topics, they all have the same similar style, of
Yeah.
kind of like there is an
There's
element of
similar,
fantasy.
there's a similar aesthetic to a
With
lot of them.
DC, I feel like it's a bit more varied. Do you think that it
Wait-
could come together like the Marvel
I think that
universe?
would be really cool if like each character had a really distinctive like cinematic style to it. I think that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. The only problem you encounter is when you try to do the crossovers and
Like Justice
and
League.
when you do
yeah.
Justice
Yeah.
League, because you'd have such wildly different treatments and art directions. It's just on screen it would look a bit shambolic. I think.
Yeah, if you have like a really dark Batman,
Yeah, and even
then
if
you have to have,
even
like-
if each one was brilliant, like really good in its
Yeah.
own right, it just would it would just look like it was all misaligned.
Yeah, but that's like if you look at Bane, for example, and how he was treated in Dark Knight
Yeah.
Rises, because like in a lot of the comic books and even in
Batman and Robin.
what was the first
Asylum.
Arkham Asylum game? Obviously, he gets properly pumped up and goes a bit nuts, whereas he was just a rock hard like nutcase in
Yeah,
the
it was
film.
just like
So it was all
terrorist.
again. That was quite a nice way of aligning it. Again,
Yeah.
same with the treatment of the Joker. You felt like that could probably have been just like a nut job. So
And I
don't
feel
know.
like we're just going so far away from what I thought Man of Steel was doing with
Yeah.
the character. Like which is maybe not a bad thing for Superman. Maybe it's good. Like it's going to go a
Mm.
bit more crazy because he'll have like really cool people to
Yeah.
face off. But
Yeah, because my only other concern, and I know we've said a lot of kind of things that are concerning us. If Killer Croc is like fully CG like that, which you would presume he would have to be,
quite CG.
I think a lot of the CG in Man of Steel wasn't that great.
yeah,
Well, what I saw from the Batman v Superman trailer, didn't look. I'm sure. I know it's very early days because we still have about a year to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did not look fantastic. There's one scene in particular where Superman is raising a car up, and I don't know if that was on purpose. That it almost looks like storybook style. It didn't look great at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I said, year to go. I know Jurassic Park had problems, which have since been mostly resolved. It looks great. So yeah, I hope
yeah,
it's the same.
that's
kind of
probably
thing for
all
that
they're doing
film.
now is CGI work and like,
Probably.
production. And,
Yeah.
like, be a lot of special effects in that film.
Yeah. And removing the Joker's tattoos for Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
All
After
in
the
post.
backlash.
Good. Well, we're going to finish on something that one of us is hugely passionate about.
excited.
It is. Do you want to introduce this, Rory?
Absolutely, yeah. So, Dragon Ball Z,
Sad.
very popular TV show. There hasn't been a Dragon Ball TV series for 18 years,
Right.
which has been a long time to go. They have done movies. They've made some movies,
Yeah.
and the whole idea was recently we're going to make some more movies, and if they do well, if they sell well, then we'll consider bringing back Dragon Ball as a TV series. The movies did reasonably well. Everyone was excited. They used some characters from the old shows people liked, like Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. And then they recently announced that they're going to be starting a brand new Dragon Ball TV show called Dragon Ball Super. And I think it's airing in Japan in July, which may be simultaneously released in the US and UK, hopefully.
Yep.
Because they've been doing that a lot more with popular anime. They'll do them both at the same time. But it's with the original creators of Dragon Ball, which people are really excited about because, it's one of the most popular ones. And it follows on from Dragon Ball Z, so right after that.
Yeah.
Because after Dragon Ball Z, they did do some other shows, and they weren't that great.
Yeah. So what is it about Dragon Ball Z
Zed.
that
Could've called that.
gets you so excited?
Well, I think for me and for a lot of people, it's the nostalgia factor. A lot of us watched it as a kid. We kind of grew up in the age of Toonami, so it was kind of Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, like a lot of these big shows that were kind of being brought over here, Beyblades as well. Growing up kids watching these TV shows, and it just became like such a huge part of our lives that went away. I kind of view it as the equivalent of, imagine if
It's like Only Fools and Horses.
I don't.
Nice.
No, I was gonna say, imagine if they stopped making Pokemon games after like Pokemon Yellow or Pokemon. So it's something you didn't have as a kid, and then maybe like this year they were like, we're gonna do Pokemon again, it's crazy. It's really cool.
Is the new series going to be a continuation, or is it going to be like a soft reboot for people who've
No,
never
they
seen
say
it?
well, after Dragon Ball Z, they did have a continuation, which was called Dragon Ball GT. That no one really liked
These
it.
names are awful.
I know.
Well, I think it's probably due to translation.
Just sounds like a bunch of different cars.
Yeah.
It really does, yeah.
I've just bought the Dragon Ball Z, 0 to 60, 4.5 miles an hour.
Like the
4.5.
GT.
I can't speak. Oh my God.
Car bounce a bit. This is why we're not going to be taking over Top Gear anytime
No.
soon.
But
totally should.
Dragon Ball Z was the most popular one, and this is going to be continuing on from where they left off in Dragon Ball Z. So it's very exciting for me and for a lot of people who grew up kind of watching the show. I don't know if you've ever seen it before.
I've never seen an
never seen it.
episode
No.
of Dragon Ball Z.
I'm trying. Imagine a team of Dan Kilbys who can fly, just fighting other Dan Kilbys.
What, and
And
destroying other people
destroying
with like,
planets.
crazy marketing speak.
Yeah, absolutely, as he does. Metaphorical planets,
He
sales
listens,
planets.
he listens to integrated marketing podcasts
Does he?
while at the gym.
Oh, those can't
Hell
be,
yes.
those can't be fun.
That is a way to spend just
What, is
free
it just
time. isn't it?
stats and like,
Yeah, getting pumped, mate.
oh, that would be awful.
So if I was to watch Dragon Ball Z, where should I start?
Well, it
Just
is
the new series?
notoriously a difficult show to get into. When
Rory,
it
you're
was
not-
kind
you're not selling it to me,
yeah,
mate.
yeah. It's kind of funny when they brought it over and localized it for the US and things. They started with Dragon Ball Z, but they gave no justification. They like explained none of the backstory of any of the characters and things like that. So, but they started airing it to like all these kids. So it's like you would watch the first episode and you have no idea who any of these people are or like what's going. It's like being thrown in the middle of a TV show and then you just kind of pick your way back up again. But I think a safe bet, because it's obviously progressed, maybe give the new show a chance.
Straight with the
because
new
I
show.
assume they'll do a bit more for fans who haven't
Yeah,
seen it before.
a
hopefully.
reintroduction into the universe.
Exactly, because it's been
Yeah.
quite a while. But I think hopefully it'll be a good place to start off.
You gonna watch Alex?
Probably not.
Probably not.
And that's no judgment on your pitch. I think it's really good.
No, I thought
It's not really my thing.
See, I'm not listening to enough sales podcasts. This is what
That's
I
what
need
you
to.
need.
I need
Yeah,
to
you need
listen
to
to those
draper
and then
it.
come
You
back
need to
in.
like just like make them want it.
See, I've just finished Daredevil. I'd watched the second season of that, but I'm not sure about Dragon Ball.
Okay, is
vastly
it,
different.
different things for different people.
I know.
It's all right. People
Yeah.
can have different
Different frogs, different
Who would
times.
win in a fight? Daredevil or is it Goku? Is the one of the characters?
Goku would probably win.
Oh,
Why?
Please.
Well, he can fly. He
Doesn't
can,
matter.
he can
Doesn't matter.
teleport.
Daredevil's taking down people who can
He's-
teleport and fly in
He
the
blew
past.
up a
mate.
planet before, like an entire planet.
That's cheating.
um,
Daredevil will kick his ass, mate. Anyway,
What-
who do you think would win? Let's put it to the listeners. Who would win? Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, or
Yeah,
Goku, or Roku, even. Email us at IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
Yeah.
yeah.
Are we ever going to change that email address?
Did we not at one point?
Too much work?
I
I
don't
have
know.
to contact IT, don't
Yeah, we have to send an email to do it.
Oh no, we're not doing that.
And their email address is even
No,
worse.
that's so-
But if you want to, you tweet our IT department if you can find them. But of course, the podcast, you can watch it on IGN.com. And if you
Yeah.
don't even go to IGN, if you like this podcast, there's lots of stuff on there that's similar to this, about stuff.
Sorry
Have I
about
sold
that.
it? That's IGN.com. And I've been Daniel. You've been... You've been... See you next week.
Bye.